What trends have you seen with your current clients that we should know about?
I think the biggest trend that we're noticing is lack of clarity on really the data that they need to understand in today's market to scale.
So 85% of our industry has never seen a downturn. And so we're in the longest economic expansion in U.S. history. We talk about this a lot. So what I wanted to do is really dig into what you're hearing out there with all of your clients, what you're seeing, what people should be doing, et cetera. So let's start with, what trends have you seen with your current clients that we should know about?
Yeah, I think the biggest trend that we're noticing is lack of clarity on really the data that they need to understand in today's market to scale or to maintain. What play are you actually running once you're out there on the field? Because the reality is nowadays we've learned about so many great choices that teams have on how to build legacy businesses. And the decision still has to be so simple that you should be able to explain that napkin model to an outside observer. And do you have a model that you could scale 20 or maybe $50 million at a time through those 3, maybe 5 sources? Dare I say, Marc, we're talking about the fundamentals of business again.
It's so interesting. I've done a couple interviews with people talking about building databases and 33 touches, and I'm going back in time 21 years to when I joined this company. It's fascinating, but it is the fundamentals. And so, what percentage of your clients do you think are really running the fundamentals at a high level today?
It's not the majority, I will say, because distractions are, the shiny objects are much more prevalent in the conversations we're having on a weekly basis than repetitious boredom, and just being really, really clear on a few consistent pieces that can have a major impact on the business that you're building and really the success and fulfillment that those under your care in your business will have. The
analogy that we hear all the time is you see Michael Phelps won, more gold medals in the Olympics than anyone in history. But what you didn't see was the 15 years of 6 hours a day, 7 days a week in that pool. You said repetitious boredom, and I think that's a muscle that's atrophied over the last 14 years. That it's about lead generation. You have to build a database. You have to meet people. You have to ingrain trust in those people, and that right there are some basics and some fundamentals we've gotten away from. And so, what's your number one tip for getting people back into the gym?
Number one, decide what kind of athlete you actually want to become. Because becoming a professional bodybuilder versus being a football player are 2 incredible goals to set and 2 incredibly different training programs to implement. So let's be clear on what that's going to look like. And by the way, as a partner from MAPS, I'm not going to judge that. Yet, if you are wanting to play in the major leagues of whatever that is going to look like, we've got to be clear on how we're actually going to properly prepare your muscles for the right thing, not just a thing.
One of the things that I found as a coach, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is your lead acquisition strategy or your lead gen strategy, whatever you want to call it, has to match your behavioral style. So if you ask me to sit on the phone and smile and dial 5 hours a day, I'm not going to do it. But I will be the first at the party. I'll be the last to leave. I will talk to every person in the room every single time. I'll get a selfie with everybody. My follow-up systems are terrible, so I need help with that. Like, you have to understand who you are, because you won't stick with your lead generation or lead acquisition strategy if you're so one size doesn't fit all, is my point. Are you seeing people kind of chasing other people's strategies, or are you seeing people really understanding who they are and what they should be doing?
I would say 110%. I see people chasing the latest workshop or the latest influencer that is talking about how well they're doing in one thing without actually slowing down. I'd actually say I'm in the business of slowing down people long enough to truly discover who they are, so that when they do, it can really fulfill and fuel them to build the business worth having. But in terms of lead generation, yes. Really discover who you are and what drives you, because at the end of the day, as you also consider attracting people onto your team, they're going to be like you, right? They're not going to solve your woes of not wanting to pick up the phone. So might as well build $1 million model that you can first model for yourself, prove, and then duplicate that success with those who are just like you, that can build a culture that will eat any other strategy for breakfast anyways. And I will say, Mark, on that note, some of the top teams that in terms of growth, massive profit growth that I have the pleasure of partnering with at MAPS have done just that. If you looked behind the curtain, you may not necessarily discover that they are the strongest economists of choice, but what they have really nailed is nailing just their 3 to 5 lead gen sources and building systems and very specific playbooks that we can scale.
I have found that this market has trained people to think that your average days on market is 6 minutes. And when I started, it was 6 months. And so one of the things that's really hard for people is to understand we have not been in a normal market for a long time. So how are you coaching people to understand that a normal market means you actually stage properties, you actually worry about curb appeal, you don't get multiple offers. There's going to be things called price reductions and expireds and all those things that we haven't heard about in years. How are you helping people?
There's this really cool training program in our ecosystem called Ignite.
Heard of this?
Yeah. And what's so cool about what we have right in our own backyard is that we have all these fundamentals already written out. I like to consider myself the lazy maps coach because I don't want to innovate anything. I firmly believe if I don't know where to guide someone to, that I have my network of resources within Maps that can tell me what the training is we already have. And then to confirm that folks are actually executing on reading those pages and watching the training videos.
I was in a meeting with Gary, and he made the comment that agents are going to have to lead generate an hour or two more per day to keep their same market share in the market that's coming. Here's the scary part, Gabi. I think a lot of agents aren't lead generating at all right now. So this is a whole new skill set. So if I'm new to this lead gen thing, how do you ease me into this?
You're going to assemble your METS database, right? And our model, it's basically 21040 for 200 workdays out of the year. And step 2 would be surround yourself in an environment that will also support you and your calendar, your intentions on a daily basis to help build that muscle. And we have, 30 some different ways in these 2 great books called MREA and Shift, where you can even read up on or remind yourself of ways that you could build those relationships if maybe you're new to town and you're starting your database from absolute scratch there. But I think really most importantly, it is to decide to execute on building the muscle and to start small.
The fundamentals are more important in the market we're heading into, and I think already in, than the market that we're coming out of. All right. Any closing thoughts before we break, Gabi?
I would offer be clear on your napkin model and list support even if you are trying to navigate on gaining that clarity. And especially in light of the near future and what your business looks like, consider asking yourself all the time, how can I be less wrong, right? Who else can I enlist support on that can check my model? And who are you studying to confirm your model is the right one, the right play that you're going to play going into 2023?
Thank you, Gabi, so much. Gabi Brennesholtz, everyone.
Thank you, Marc. It was great being here.